right, we're on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of the BackMarkers F1 Show.
Number one.
We had all the car launches earlier this week, so it's our turn.
Number one, unlike what the Williams will be this year, but at least we're number one for something.
Yeah. So I'm Chris Kato, alongside me, Tyler McDonald for this episode.
Bonjour, les gars.
Shaker Barty, our engineer, working hard over there in the corner. So a long off season. It's finally at an end, so we got about 3 more weeks or so until the actual first race of the season, but we got a little bit of testing going on earlier in the week and also the car launches. So I guess we could start off just by going over some of the launches. What were your initial thoughts when you saw some of the new liveries, some of the cars? And then obviously we'll get to the Halo, which is the number one.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, first thing was, who's going to make where's Steph Curry? Is there a three-pointer coming in with the basketball hoop over top all these cars?
Yeah,
but,
it did look...
it does look bad from the T camera, but we'll get to that very soon. But, I mean, first off, I thought when the Red Bull first launched their car and they had that beautiful, like, blue camel livery, I was going, maybe Red Bull's going to pull something a little special here. But,
yeah.
To be honest, I wasn't really surprised by any team's livery except for, I think, the way Renault and how classy that looks. And Alfa Romeo, I think, is an underdog for the nicest livery so far this season.
Yeah, I would have liked a little more red in it. I saw some concept liveries that had a little bit more red base to it instead of just more of the all-white. But I guess they went with a little more something that's classier and just a bit more simple.
Well, that's what Alpha is, though, right? Alpha is,
yeah.
I mean, it's supposed to be the simplified version. It helps the old F1 fans, too. I mean, I know a lot of older generation F1 fans enjoy the very simplified Alpha livery because it's nice and simple. It's not too flashy. If you want to talk flashy, you go to Force India. Like, my goodness, that pink and white. It looks great.
It looks great. It's much better than last year. I think they got the balance of the car right, in terms of the pink. I think they added a lot more white to it.
There's a lot of white in it.
Yeah, we'll take a look at some of them a bit later, but they did just a really nice job. And one of the things, too, I thought was some teams did a really good job of mixing the halo in with the livery so that it almost blends in with it.
Yeah.
I mean, with Mercedes and I think Red Bull might have been the other one, it's just black and it doesn't fit well.
Unless they have that for testing and maybe they'll paint it or something. I mean, who knows? But there's only a few teams that made it look seamless. Toro Rosso is one of them that you barely notice it on the car, and you're pretty impressed. Like, I'm pretty impressed with how Toro Rosso looks as well. Yeah,
they did a good job of blending it in, which I think that was an issue because when we saw them testing it the last couple seasons, it was so obvious. And, to viewers at home and even if you were in person. But blending it in, I think, is the way to go. It just makes it a bit easier on the eyes.
So you see that there's a meme out there, and it's a Ferrari flip-flop.
with the halo, yeah.
With the halo.
Yeah.
And it looks the exact same with the Ferrari logo on the halo. And it's unbelievable. And they had to have copied it off the flip-flop. There's no way they didn't.
Yeah, well, it's like the same design, really. So, yeah. I mean, I think we'll get used to it. We can get to that a little bit later. But I guess we can start off with just actually taking a look at the cars.
Yeah.
So we can start off with Ferrari. That's the one that we got pulled up right now. So just starting with in terms of the color in comparison to last year. So a lot more red this year. I made the comment that it was very similar to the 2007 championship winning car, which was pretty much based all in red. So what do you think? You think they got the color right?
Yeah, I think the
I mean, hard right. to obviously they're going to go with red, but
yeah, you're not going to get a blue Ferrari. But I mean, Santander's not a sponsorship for the first time in years, so that's why you don't see a lot of white on the car.
Yeah, that's true. I did notice that I think they kept Shell, UPS, those big ones, but that was
Santander's not anymore. Yeah. So I mean, that's why there's a lot less white on the car. I know that's one of the big reasons, but what's interesting for me is actually when it comes to the design of the car is if you take a look, we always take a look at the side pods and what air ducts there's going to be.
Yeah.
And the top one, you see a little black mark on top of the side pod there right by, I think that's Vettel's, or that's Raikkonen's head. If it's something that it looks like what would be something that would go, maybe it's an airflow towards the turbo or something like that. It's actually a piece of a hole that goes through and it's deflecting the air over to the rear wing. It's actually pretty impressive. So they've tried to get some aerodynamics in the side pod as well, and then that's not air going anywhere. It's just more like it's not a cooling duct. It's something that's trying to direct and flow that air, which is I think was pretty clever by them to try and do something a little different. I mean, we'll talk side pods later on as well, like in the teams that have the best ones, but Ferrari did a really good job of trying to keep this as aerodynamic as possible.
Yeah, I think they probably had the best car last year in terms of all around performance, maybe obviously lacking a little bit on the engine power side, but I think aerodynamically they were probably the one team that got it right almost at every race. But yeah, that side pod detail, and I think it was Vettel who made the comment last year that Red Bull's side pod was almost a carbon copy of the one that Ferrari had from last year.
Yeah, well, look at Red Bull's side pod this year.
Yeah.
It's impressive how tight it is.
Yeah. So, Shaker, see if you can go to the next one. I think there was maybe a head-on photo of it. Skip forward. Yeah, this one right here. I mean, it always gets me with the detail of the front wings, too. Is most of the teams, it's sort of similar with the ridges that they have in the front wing, and then a couple of the noses are shaped a bit differently. But then I think Ferrari has a little bit of an airflow, too, going through the halo, which is interesting. And I've noticed some teams have opted to just go with a solid halo. Some teams have cut a couple of holes in there for airflow. So, that's pretty interesting to see how that will affect aero this year.
Yeah, well, they're allowed to have that aerodynamic spot on top of the halo, and the FIA allowed them to. But I was surprised. Mercedes haven't seen much except for a couple of vortex generators on top of the halo, which isn't really a lot. But Ferrari seem to have a full winglet on top of their halo. There's a few teams like that as well. I think it's nice to see. Hopefully it just doesn't end up like what we saw last year with that T-wing on the shark fin.
Yeah.
That thing got out of control real fast. So hopefully you don't see these massive sculptures coming off these halos at the end of the season.
Well, that was the number one thing, too, that they got rid of in terms of big difference was that shark fin.
Yeah.
And I didn't mind it too much. It looked really weird at the beginning of the season last year, but you sort of kind of got used to it. But you had a couple of those ridiculous T-wings that fell off the Haas, I think a couple times.
Williams, I think, too.
Yeah. So I'm glad they got rid of that. And when you look at it, too, it's just it's shaped nicely. It flows well off the back end of the car, and it's a much better shape. They cut off an extra probably couple grams off the car with that.
Well, everyone's really what people start looking at is the front wing and the complexity of the front wings, but we're really there's not much you can do anymore. All the teams seem to have a very similar front wing, and the ideas, I think that's kind of maxed out right now. So you're starting to see, everyone looks to see where is that wing going, where's the front wing, where's all the air going, but we're really starting to see the floor beds starting to have a lot more aero compartments to them, the side pods, and I think a lot of focus is now away from the front wing and going towards the sides of the car.
Yeah. I was a bit surprised too. Is mostly every, like you were saying, front wing is the same for every team. So, but yeah, the detail is incredible because it's just a small ridges, small cuts in the bodywork here and there. But I mean, I don't know nothing about aerodynamics.
Yeah, me either. I just try to watch YouTube videos and
apparently
understand.
It works. So they've got guys with university degrees for that. So
there's air going up over the tire.
Yeah,
and underneath the car.
That's about it.
I mean, that's if I was smart, I'd go into engineering. But
yeah, well, we just stick to talking about the colors of the car. So that's Ferrari.
Expert analyst.
Yeah. So let's see what. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
so
fair enough.
That's, so see what's go to the next car. Who do we have next here? So. We'll talk about Ferrari a little bit later on. Okay.
Mr. Canadian Lance Stroll.
Some Canadian content here. Jacques Villeneuve's favorite F1 driver right now, Lance Stroll.
Is he?
Did you see that? He's got a real issue with Lance Stroll. Jacques Villeneuve does. He's been
why? Because he's a billionaire?
Yeah, I think the pay driver thing was a big thing that he was calling him out on. He made some comments last year as well.
Man, if I was a billionaire and my dad gave me all these cars to race in, I'd be loving it. There's nothing to complain about. I mean, we're just not in that situation.
Yeah. Well, I understand the argument, and I mean that's what the sport is, though. It's a money sport. So.
100%.
But when you look at it in 2017, he did bring the results. So we got first podium, first front row start.
I mean, the first 5-6 races were
awful.
But I mean, going from the jump from F3 to F1.
Yeah.
Is massive. I would imagine. I mean, I've never done it myself, but
I mean, I did it in a video game, and I mean, it's
tough.
It's seamless, but
But I mean, with anything, and last year I think was the biggest the hardest to transition because of the way the cars were and how much G-force load and how lower down they were. So, I think he did a decent job, and everyone was giving him ribs. But by the end of the season, he seemed to be settled in very well, and I'm sure that podium at Baku helped a lot in Azerbaijan.
Yeah. I mean, like you were saying, it was so tough physically. I mean, he was 19 when he started last year, or 18, maybe even
second
younger.
youngest. Verstappen was the only one that was younger than him.
Yeah, and to come in, and the physicality of driving the cars last year was just totally different from, let's say 2011 on. So I don't think you can discredit those results. When you look at the Baku podium, I think he was it's a result of just a wild race, and guys getting penalties and losing.
Which is what the first race should have been. The first race in Azerbaijan was so boring.
Yeah, it stepped up, immensely in the quality, but he still had to drive all those miles, and he had to put in those performances. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what Villeneuve's beef with him really is, but it's just kind of surprising because he's the only Canadian driver. So you'd think that the only ever
and that's not very Canadian, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what his issue is, and maybe he's gonna turn his mind around this season, but it's pretty interesting seeing them two go at it.
I mean, in terms of livery style, the Williams didn't change anything to last year. It looks the exact same, other than obviously the halo on top. But if you were to take the halo off, and other than some aerodynamic changes, it's a very similar looking Williams car. I don't really know how they're going to do this year. I don't think they're going to do well. I think they might come last in constructors.
Way to be positive.
Yeah, 100%. Poor Lance. But, I mean, he's along with Sorokin, so you do have a very young drivers lineup for Williams, and I don't know if they're doing that to help Mercedes in the future. I mean, they could be trying to be a project team there as well, but we all know the history of Williams and, where they want their organization to be. I don't know how they're gonna. They seem to have, once they've maxed out their potential, I think, and I think a lot of it has to do with their chassis.
Yeah,
they don't have a good chassis. They might have the worst one on the F1 grid. Yeah. And to have, yes, they have Mercedes power, and yes, they have some aerodynamic changes, but I mean, you're gonna have to try and improve on that if they want to be competitive this year, because Alfa Romeo look like, or Sauber, or whatever they're called right now, look like that they're going to be actually decently competitive. Yeah, well, in the mid-range, I should say. They're not going to challenge.
You never know with
Big Three.
Yeah, with them coming into the sport for the first time in a couple years. But it's interesting when you look at all the other teams that are supplied by Mercedes. Nobody really got close, though. I mean, you had Force India, you had Williams.
They get. Well, I think it's like 3 upgrades behind is what they are. I could be wrong, but it's something like that. They don't have the full Mercedes.
Yeah, and they didn't have the ability that Mercedes had to just turn it up in qualifying. Yeah. With that whatever special feature that they got in their engine.
Plutonium.
But, yeah, I mean, some of those qualifying laps, it was worse watching it, because in Q1 they'd go maybe like P3,
and you're like, oh, maybe there's something. Yeah, I think they just did it like F1 told them, like, hey, like, do you want to make this interesting? So we get some viewers?
Turn it down for like the first 20 minutes, and then we'll play for real in Q3. But yeah, it should be interesting to see. That big news is that they're losing Martini as their sponsor for at the start of next season. So Martini will stay on for this year, but no Martini for next year.
Well, I know in all the F1 games, Martini never allowed, like, let's say, was it F1 2017? They never allowed them to actually put sponsorships on the car.
Is that right?
Yeah, they never got their legal authority. So
okay.
If you're playing in the F1 games, that's why you don't see Martini on there. But that would change the livery for next year as well. I mean, who knows? Yeah. Maybe HP will come back or something.
Yeah, those are nice days. Compact. Yeah.
White and blue, no red.
But also, it was an issue with Stroll, because he was underage in most countries that they went to, so he wasn't allowed to wear any Martini branding.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I think it was.
How old's Sorokin?
Good question. I think he's.
Don't mind me. I'll be on my phone.
Yeah. You want to actually look that up, Shaker? You might have some struggle with this spelling.
Sergei Sorokin. Do you need me to spell it out for you?
Check out his age. I'm gonna say he's like 20.
I'm gonna say he's like 19. Sirotkin. You spelled Sergey wrong.
This is gonna be the hardest thing you've done all day.
EY at the end.
There we go.
Hey, that's good.
Let's see.
Wikipedia. 22.
22. Okay, so he'd be fine.
Shaker, want to read this in French for us as well?
Is that him? Look at that picture. He looks like 40 in that picture.
He does look old. All Russians look old, though, I thought.
That's after the season and doing all
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know? Like,
Yeah. That's after finishing last, like Tyler, you suggested.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
that's not too bad.
So 20. Yeah. So 22.
22.
So he would be fine, I think, in any country you went to. But like for example, I think here.
Well, Lance is I think turning 19 this year.
Yeah. Yeah. So he still has that issue. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. You know, it's disappointing. I watched that really good documentary. I think it was on Netflix about Sir Frank Williams.
Oh, he's 19 now.
Oh, he's 19 now.
He's-
Okay. So he's what,
He's
29th
old
of
man.
October. So
20 at the end of this season.
yeah, so he's going to be 19 for pretty much most of the season. So he's only going to be 20 right around what, maybe the Mexican Grand Prix.
Yeah, Mexico. Well, in the U.S. it wouldn't even matter because U.S. is 21. So
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know what it is in Mexico, but I mean I know in Europe it's usually 18.
Yeah, it's a bit lower, I
And
think, right?
well, Canada they're racing Montreal, so it's 18.
Yeah.
I mean I know they don't. I don't think they in Abu Dhabi or anything like that or Bahrain. I'm not sure what the liquor
Yeah,
requirements are. I don't know if there is
Yeah.
any liquor over there. I'm not sure, but
I thought it was just interesting though that was, you know, one of the rules for it, but yeah, I mean, it's disappointing because they are such a historical racing brand. I mean, they're one of the longest serving teams, probably, I think, other than Ferrari. And, you know, they've been at the back of the grid since probably, you know,
well since
2015 probably.
Montoya. Well,
yeah, well,
I
yeah,
guess,
in terms of
well,
actually
in
competing.
2015, but yeah, that's because they had Mercedes engine and they
Yeah.
they haven't really progressed their car that much since
Yeah.
2015, and that's their issue. That's why they're at the back. When 2015, they were very competitive.
Yeah, and then they lost Valtteri, you know, last season, so they had, I think, you know, Massa stayed on probably a year extra, which he shouldn't have. But,
I'm sure that'll kind of help groom Lance a bit. You would hope
well,
if he was a good teammate.
it's funny about that. I think one of the things that came out was, I think they asked Lance that, you know, like, oh, was Felipe, you know, a mentor and this type of stuff, and I think Lance said something like, "You never really gave me any sort of advice or anything like that," and Felipe was like, "The fuck you talking about?" Like, what? You know, but. I don't know if that was true or if that was just, you know, kind of banter between them. But, yeah, well, we can cover, you know, that driver lineup a bit later on. All right, let's see who else we have. So we covered Williams. We got Ferrari.
Reveal. I don't know who's coming up. Oh, the Haas.
We got Haas. Okay, let's keep it here. What should we say about Haas? I mean,
It's very similar to last year, but I like it. It's simple. It's not flashy. It's something that kind of represents what they are. I mean, if you look at their team in NASCAR, Stewart Haas Racing, they've had a lot of success there as well. I mean, Kevin Harvick in their driver lineup. They have Eric Almirola, who's a new driver as well, and those are only two of the three drivers I like. I honestly don't remember at the top of my head right now. But you know, having that brand and then having it here in F1 as well, this is a new sort of team that's formed up in racing in general. I mean, they only came into the sport in NASCAR, I believe, in 2011, 2012. And now, you know, they come in 2015 in F1. They have great success. Romain Grosjean, top 10 finish in their first ever race in Australia. Fantastic to see. Now it's where are they going to go from here? They have the Ferrari engine, and they have this year's Ferrari engine, I believe. So that's going to help out them immensely for power. It's up to them to not be a team that just picks in from Ferrari and takes all their parts and tries to, you know, salvage a car out of all these different parts from all these different teams. It's going to be something for them to try and be creative in their own ways. And I mean, obviously with years to come, I mean, we've seen how Force India is a team that, you know, started not too great but has progressed to be a very good F1 team,
potentially competitive. Yeah,
and that's what you want to see out of Haas eventually. And that's going to do a lot for the sport in America if they can start getting some podiums and stuff, because that's where F1 wants to, you know, keep growing, is in North America, mostly United States. Huge for them to have a United States team, but now it's the next step for them to try and get a podium at one race this season.
Yeah, it's, you know, they got a pretty decent driver lineup. I know, you know, Magnussen maybe isn't the most popular guy in the paddock, but
what was it? Suck my balls, mate.
Was it him? Who said? Was it Hulkenberg that said that, or was it him?
No, he said that to Hulkenberg.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which has become the greatest meme of 2017. I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's got. Yeah.
Involving suck my balls becomes a great meme.
I think so. Yeah, I think they've made a few T-shirts about it too.
Yeah, I they definitely did.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's you know, they're not in their inaugural season anymore. It's sort of,
What I love about I don't want to go back to Magnussen. What I love about that is that he didn't even try to do it behind closed doors. He did it in the interview area.
Yeah.
In front of all these cameras.
Yeah.
In front of microphones.
See if you can pull that
pull
up.
it up?
I don't think Shaker's seen it before, so he's probably gonna enjoy it. But yeah, it was in the in the pen after race.
Yeah, you can probably YouTube Magnussen Hulkenberg and it'll come up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna try and spell these two.
One word. Yeah.
Magnus Hahn. No, Magnus Son.
I think two S. Yeah.
And Hulk, like the Incredible Hulk, and Berg.
Yeah, but he's had a
one.
couple dust ups, He
has. I know he's the.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Do the 23-second one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he doesn't have many race highlights anyway.
Also true.
Oh, is the audio not going to be there?
Yeah, you can read the lips.
Yeah.
I think Hulkenberg came up and said
he's like the most.
Oh, I have seen this.
Yeah, I think I shared it when it happened or whatever it was, but
it was, he said, most supportive driver on the grid or something like that, and he just turns around and just has none of it. I think that's a little bit of Danish flair in him. I like it.
Yeah, that was after Hungary where they had a couple guys were
maybe he was hungry.
People. I've been hearing that joke like all my life.
Good one.
But yeah, so it's we'll see what Haas can do this season. So Toro Rosso going on to the next one. Like we talked about at the top of the show, they pretty much just kept their livery. But I zoom in just on the nose there. The biggest difference of this season.
What's that H?
It was that H in the middle. That they finally made the change.
And usually the H stands for hot trash.
Yeah, well,
this one here?
Yeah,
right there. That
I see it.
Honda powered
Honda.
for 2018. Boy,
and you know what? Fernando Alonso has to be cringing for the amount of reliability and pace that Toro Rosso has had in the first week of testing. What is it? I think Pierre Gasly did like 140 laps, and the engine didn't blow up, which is never happened.
We have the graphic of the most laps done by team.
Pierre Gasly did the most on day 4.
He did. Well, let me check here.
I think it's 100 and.
Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, so scroll down to the bottom. I think it shows you which team did the most laps. So that's fastest. Yeah, they're not going to be at the fastest laps per driver. That's for sure. Yeah, most laps completed per team.
326.
326.
They haven't had that, and they didn't change their engine once. They didn't. Oh, I mean, we know of. They could have done it behind closed doors. I think they were fine. But I mean, like, how impressive is Honda turning up? Maybe they just didn't like McLaren. And McLaren blows a tire on their first day. I don't know if you saw the meme.
Yeah.
So their tire falls off. They had a problem with their wheel nut.
Yeah.
And there was Alonso like checking his tire to see what was happening. Mm-hmm. And then the next picture was like a Honda branded tire.
Oh yeah.
I said, oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, poor Fernando.
But I'm impressed to see what Honda can do, and maybe McLaren made the wrong decision. Maybe Toro Rosso knows something that McLaren doesn't, and who knows, if they have this reliability, do we see Red Bull, the big team, take this in the future and step away from the Renault powered car that they have right now?
Well, Brendan Hartley said something interesting, which was that last year Toro Rosso was using obviously Renault engine, Renault supplying quite a few teams, but now Honda's the only one supplying one team. So he was saying pretty much along the lines that they can put a sole focus onto developing the engine just for this one team. So they're not sort of, distributing it unevenly, or, this team's getting a little more here, this team's getting a little more there. So you got this one, engine manufacturer that can just solely focus on one team. And I think so far, by the looks of it, they've been able to work together in a good partnership that, for whatever reason, McLaren, just wasn't able to figure out. And again, this is just testing, but the fact that they were I think they completed more laps, in like one day than McLaren did the past like 3 years.
Yeah,
in terms of testing,
unbelievable. And I'm really interested to see how Toro Rosso does this year. I think they're going to be another mid-pack team like they usually are. Now that they don't have, a reduced engine, because we would see before Toro Rosso in years past, they'd start off the year very well because their engine would be somewhat up to date, but then they wouldn't get updates the rest of the year, and they'd slowly fall behind. Now that they have a Honda engine behind them, I wonder if we see them be more consistent in terms of their results throughout the year. And I mean, that'd be great for Brendan Hartley, who's I'm really a fan of, who's come up, and he's done very well, and seems like a smart guy on the roster as well. On the grid, I should say.
Yeah, well, he's got a lot of experience, and he was trying to get to. I thought he looked way younger than he was, but I think
he's in his 30s.
Yeah, he's in his 30s, so he's been racing, I think, WEC for quite a while.
I know he had a big. He used to be a Porsche driver. I know he was with Porsche for a long, long time.
Yeah. So definitely, I think that it's an interesting driver lineup. I mean, it was weird what they did with Kvyat last year. I thought that was
Every time Kvyat gets demoted, Max Verstappen wins a race.
Yeah, well, now he's with with Vettel at Ferrari, as the test driver. But
is that where he is now?
Yeah. So
I just thought he fell off the face of the earth.
No, they kept him in. I mean, I don't think he'll get any type of drive there with Ferrari. But yeah, I think the driver lineup it's an interesting one. We'll see what Gasly can show over a whole year. It's hard to judge those guys just based on last season coming in, and they had some horrible reliability issues toward the end of the season. So
horrible reliability issues,
and then
now
they moved to
Honda.
But I don't know. I hope Honda can sort of just figure it out. I think they changed management and who's leading their Formula One side there,
which is best case, because that was just a disaster for 2-3 years, whatever it was. With McLaren.
It just got almost tired of talking about it. Race after race.
Well, he felt bad for Alonso. I mean, there's a guy with so much talent, and
he was still doing some pretty good drives. I mean, he had a fastest lap, here and there, and then P7, P8. But I mean, I think it was just a joke sometimes. It literally was, with Alonso too, over the team radio and stuff. It was just like a joke, about the power and the reliability.
This is an FP2 engine, FP2 engine, this is a joke, guys. Like, well, they only do so much for poor Alonso. I mean,
so I'm happy that they've moved on, and hopefully Honda can find a new home with Toro Rosso. And I think we were talking about this before. If you can see just at the top of the halo there, I think
they have another winglet up top there.
Yeah, so they tried to cut out a little
that's
piece.
That's the T-cam shaker. That's where the camera goes.
That's cool.
Yeah, which you mentioned looks like a basketball hoop from the angle.
So the halo looks like a basketball hoop from the T-cam.
From the angle that they were showing it. Yeah, so I would almost.
It doesn't. I hope
the other camera angle that they have, which is from the side of the helmet.
Yeah, you can't see
it's
anything.
It's a bit lower.
But you can't see it. It's just on the halo. You can't see it.
Right. So I don't know if they can move that around. If what.
No, it's usually like right there, isn't it?
So it's on that T. Lower. So if you look up at that little thing right there, that's the camera.
Okay.
That used to provide really good onboards, but now it's just the basketball hoop in the way.
Where are they going to put the onboards now? Like,
I think that's just where they're going to keep it.
I think it'd be great if they did what IndyCar is doing and put a visor cam on for the race, because IndyCar did a great, and NASCAR has it as well, the visor cam, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah. And what IndyCar started doing is they would take the audio feed from the onboard camera instead of taking the audio from the visor cam, which is just all wind.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you guys haven't seen it, check it out for sure. Just because the view that you get, it's
fantastic.
It's really
you get a good appreciation for what these drivers see, and that'd be awesome in F1 to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I'm not sure, in terms of logistically, obviously they're wireless cameras somehow, but
well, it's just a little camera on top of. Almost off the eyebrow.
But I mean, then you're talking about you're adding a bit more weight to the car.
They just added 30 kilograms of titanium or whatever it is.
Well, you might have to look at it, for next season. But yeah, that would be great to set something up like that.
No, for sure, I agree. And then we're seeing the new F1 management try and do that as well. So I know they've done a good job in the half year that they've had to be able to, try to make sure that they try to be more fan friendly. Which is huge for this sport, because they used to be all these uptight, the last 10 years has been very Bernie. So it'd be nice to have a little bit of a NASCAR fan friendly spot toward F1 in the future.
So speaking of Honda, we can move on to McLaren, who know Honda pretty well. So I mean biggest news for them is the new partnership with Renault. So we talked about that. It's a positive step for them, and they've shown some good reliability for the first couple of days of testing.
Other than their first lap or whatever, it was, where their tire blew up.
I think they had a couple of fuel leak issues and stuff that I'm not sure if it was related exactly to the engine, but they were able to get some laps, and Fernando topped the timesheets on day 3.
Fastest McLaren. Fastest car in the snow.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So
I know Alonso sent a tweet out saying, nice to see us being faster in the snow or something like that.
I think that's what he went out for, though. He's just like, I'm going to be on the top of the time sheet.
13 laps, though.
Yeah, which is, he was going pretty slow, though. But
that's true.
So yeah, and one of the things you notice too, just
The eyelashes on the side of the car.
yeah. Okay, I didn't even notice that.
Well,
I
they're
wouldn't have noticed it unless you pointed it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see?
well they're just vortex generators that disturb the air going toward the back wing, but like they do look pretty weird.
Yeah.
It's like adding, like, taking a card and putting it on your bike to make it sound like a motorbike.
Yeah. I think that's what these are all. Yeah, so Shaker doesn't really watch Formula One,
No,
but he
no
knows
idea
about
what's
it.
going on.
But
I know what I'm.
this is the sport in a nutshell. Just all these like small little details that casual fans, well, people that don't really understand it, like us, in terms of aerodynamics. I mean, I have
Like,
no
I understand
idea.
a bit. Like, I know what they're there to generate.
I know what they're there for, but all the little details in the grooves, it's just ridiculous. And I think a front wing like that costs like 150,000 euros, something like that, just the front wing alone.
I don't know. I thought the front wing was cheaper. I know a mirror costs like a couple of grand.
Yeah,
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a mirror, but
I think WTF1 did the video. It totaled
Yeah.
up to like almost, I think it was like a couple $100 million in terms of total to actually build a car.
yeah,
So
I don't have that
was-
money.
It was pretty steep. But a couple changes from McLaren. They got Dell. They got a big sponsor. On their car too.
They got a papaya orange,
yeah,
which looks unbelievable
I'm a
with
big
the blue.
fan of this. Yeah, I think they really did a good job. They went back with sort of the orange last year in a
Yeah.
little bit of a tint, but they went back to sort of the original kind of the days of Bruce McLaren with those old papaya Can-Am cars and
And they have nothing on the side pod in terms of sponsorship.
Yeah.
There's so much sponsorship potential on it. It's screaming sponsor me
Yeah.
on the side pod. So
Well,
there's,
I mean-
there's nothing on it. It's blank.
yeah, I think they're gonna need maybe some good results to attract.
Maybe they'll get like papayas from Mexico to sponsor them. I don't know.
Well, what was interesting is that
It
they
makes sense.
have. I don't know if you can see it in this photo, but the other ones last year they had. Last couple years they had CNN as a sponsor, and I think this year they have. I think it's either
CNBC.
CNBC, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it says on the foam drivers where the foam is for the
Right.
driver's head.
So I'm not really sure what the whole I think there's another McLaren.
CNN, I
photo
think, is
actually
too
in
much
there.
fake news, so they were into.
Maybe I mean
we're not getting into that.
but I don't
We're
know
not
if
getting
it's
into that here.
if it's a money thing that they get out of it, but that was one of the main sponsors that they had through the last couple years that stayed. So it is CNBC.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dell is the new one, which is good. They got a pretty big brand to go along with them.
Yeah, I can't find anything.
Yeah. But yeah, the switch back to the full orange, I think was a really good move, and the blue tint, and
The blue-
Alonso got the nice blue helmet as
Yeah.
well, so it fits in with the car really
No,
well.
it looks nice. I mean, that's gotta be maybe I think one of the nicest good-looking cars on the grid this year, and hopefully for McLaren's sake and the fans of McLaren, they can start being competitive in some races. I mean, poor Alonso, easily top 5 most talented drivers in the world right now,
Yeah,
and he was stuck with a very very crappy car.
yeah,
So it just for F1 in general, and I would love to see Alonso get back on a podium at least once this year.
yeah.
Whether or not it's a fluke or not, I just that guy, he needs to win, and he's not going to do the Indy 500 again, but maybe he does the Le Mans this year.
He is.
Who
Yeah.
knows? So,
He's doing the full race
Oh, is he?
calendar. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Perfect.
That's what's crazy about him is that he did the 24 hours of Daytona, the Rolex 24
Yeah.
at the end of January. That was actually my first 24-hour race that I watched. It coincided
fun.
perfectly with the Australian Open
Oh,
final.
there you go.
So
Works for you.
I watched my man Federer win number 20, and then that was like 3 a.m. and then you watch a little bit of the race here.
The Rolex at Daytona is a great race to watch.
Yeah,
it really starts off the season in general. It's the first one.
Yeah.
It's in January or late January?
Yeah,
something
late
like that?
January. Yeah. So
So-
very very interesting because I always followed 24-hour racing, but never actually sat down to watch it. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, he plans to do the whole schedule. So he's gonna have a lot of probably like back to back weekends. And
Well,
I think,
at least it keeps them busy.
yeah, and he said he loves it. So I think the toughest thing for him is probably going to be the jet lag and traveling from one continent to another, which he's used to. But it's going to be a pretty busy schedule. But it will coincide with Toyota and Le Mans in June, I believe.
Which is perfect. And I know they moved Le Mans or they moved an F1 race that coincided with Le Mans because it was
something
on the same
like
weekend.
that. Yeah, it was scheduling. I think
it was the Belgian Grand Prix. Could be wrong.
Yeah,
Again,
I think the
probably
WEC
wrong.
drivers were pretty pissed about that
Yeah.
because they moved something just so Fernando can do it. So, but I mean it brings good exposure for them. So
Oh, for sure.
yeah,
In 24 hours in Le Mans. I mean, I've never sat down and watched the full 24 hours,
Yeah.
obviously, but I mean, it's a legendary race.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Maybe the most legendary race in the world.
and he's going for the Triple Crown. So I mean he had a shot at winning the 500 last year, and then once again that
damn Honda
engine came in real handy for him there. So
Well, that is the same livery that he used in that Indy 500.
I think that's where it started from. Yeah,
Yeah.
is people really liked it there. So yeah, no, I think they probably have the best looking car for this year in terms of color. I'm not sure about performance.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and even Van Dorn. I mean, when we look at some of the timesheets, I think the first day. Let's see here.
He didn't go on the first day.
So day 2, yeah, he was P3. And he did set he set I think the third fastest lap. Yeah, we have him up here. So if you go down, so he did set the third fastest lap, but it was on the Hypersoft tire. So the new
Right, and then Hamilton beat him on mediums, which is scary.
which is pretty. Yeah, I mean he didn't run for the first couple days.
That's
so
scary to think of.
Yeah, and I mean still good for McLaren that on the Hypersoft he can get there. That's the new pink sidewall tire for this year. But still, I think it's a small positive for McLaren.
I think so too. It's again a team that needs to start winning again, start being competitive again, and there's a lot of frustrated McLaren fans out there that I'm sure are looking.
Do they clean the tracks daily?
No, no.
I think maybe they do like one of those city sweepers.
Yeah, to get rid of the dirty rubber.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't want your racing line to be slick. You want to have some rubber on your racing line.
I mean, like,
That's where the grip comes in.
Yeah.
Hamilton was going on day 4 or something.
Well, I mean, it was snowing.
You think they were sweeping out overnight, eh?
It was snowing day 3, so I'm sure that got rid of a lot of it. And
Well,
the rain it washes all the rubber off.
Well,
right?
that was
So-
the interesting thing about the Barcelona circuit was they put new asphalt on for this year.
Yeah, and it's very slick from
yeah,
what I've heard.
So that was one
lot
of the
of
biggest
drivers don't
struggles.
like it.
And it was like 3 degrees Celsius.
Okay, so what I don't get is I know Barcelona's supposed to be warm. Right?
Yeah.
Spain's supposed to be warm. Why don't they do these tests in Abu Dhabi where they know it's going to be warm?
Yes, that was one of the things that they're.
I know it's hard for all the teams to ship up and go to Abu Dhabi.
But-
Or like if they can't go to the Middle East, why don't you go to somewhere like Portugal, which I would think is warm at this time, or somewhere like very southern Italy. There's some great racetracks in Portugal, by the way, that you need to check out.
I think Jerez is in Portugal, or Jerez. I think that's how the
Jerez,
Spanish
yeah.
say it. Yeah,
Dubai
there's
is
some
not
crazy.
in Portugal. Is that what you said, Dubai?
No, he's.
Where it's not important.
Yeah.
You could go to Dubai.
Yeah.
If you're spending so much money, it'd be the place.
Or go to Australia, where the first race is, and just stay there.
That's I mean, I don't know. Well, one of the interesting, because that's what they were saying is like, well, why don't you go to Bahrain? And they were like, okay, logistically, but I think Eric Boulier said that Bahrain is on the way to Australia. I think a flight from Bahrain to Australia is maybe 7-8 hours. I don't know, but it's a lot closer than Spain.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna have to bring all that air freight over there, you send some stuff to Australia, or
just stay in Australia for a month.
Yeah. Well, it's
nice there. It's it's a nice country. I like the people there.
I would imagine that the track is roughly already set up. I mean, we're a couple weeks away, so they would have everything ready to go.
Or at least start building it or something.
I don't know if it's something.
I don't know how
about
much of the city they shut down, but I know they shut down.
Well, it's Albert Park,
right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot.
I think it's.
I know Albert Park
sure.
gets shut down for a month. I think for set up, tear down, and everything. I mean, I could be.
Well, it's an interesting
completely
point
wrong, but
because I've always wondered that too. Is you might as well just go to the first race. I don't know if it's something about an advantage point of view where they don't want to
go
run.
to Austin, actually, it's snowing in Texas right
now. That was the unlucky thing. It was the first time it snowed in about 10 years in Spain, and Monaco got snow. Like everywhere in Europe, there was a cold front. Luckily, here in Ottawa, we finally got some warm weather during that week, so that was nice.
Snowed last night, though. Well, at the time we were recording this.
Well, it's back to normal, yeah. But I think that's something that they're going to have to look forward to because, it's a big waste of money. I mean, who knows how much this costs just for them to test, and then you're gonna run.
At least they have 2 weeks of testing, right? I mean, I don't know what the weather's.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what the weather's gonna be like in Barcelona tomorrow. Chris, take it from here as I do some research.
I don't know. Yeah, I think they're gonna slowly start to get out of the cold front, but I don't think it's gonna be. I don't know what the seasonal sort of average is supposed to be in Barcelona, but certainly not 3 degrees. So
we need a meteorologist on our show here. It's 14 degrees right now, which I don't know. It's Barcelona. It's gonna be beautiful next week.
Okay,
maybe we should take a trip to Barcelona. Monday it's supposed to rain. I don't know if they're testing Monday though.
So
Monday or Tuesday they start testing.
I think it's. I would assume maybe starting on Tuesday.
How did it snow in Barcelona? It's literally 16 and 15 the whole week, and sunny. Other than Monday, it's raining. Unbelievable. Shaker, what do we got our next car? Oh, sorry. I know you're doing some research there. The Red Bull.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because they released the so this is what they did this a couple years ago where they released the testing livery, which was the camo.
Yeah, it looks so
zebra
so
stripe.
they did that in like black and silver.
Yeah.
This year was blue, like a metallic blue and then a navy blue.
Yeah, which looked really good. But I thought that they were gonna run it in testing because that's what they did in a couple years ago.
Nope.
But yeah, they did it for promotional purposes. So I mean, it makes
that's
sense.
A lot of money to spend on a paint job.
Yeah, because in detail too, but obviously for the Red Bull brand,
someone got paid.
Yeah, for their brand though, obviously it's gonna make sense to keep the traditional yellow and blue and black, but it's sort of like a matte color to it.
Yeah, I don't mind the matte. I mean, it looks
great.
Fine.
Yeah.
What I'm curious is to see if Aston Martin starts building engines or starts coming in with their own car. Away from the Red Bull, because that's another team that would be nice to. We'd like to see Aston Martin, like to see Jaguar have a team again.
Porsche has talked about it too. I think they're waiting for the 2021, the new engine regulations.
Yeah, which would make the most sense. But I mean, we need to have more than 20 drivers on the grid.
Yeah,
24 to 26 would be ideal.
Yeah. Well, I think back in the day they had even more. It was 30 or something like that.
That might get a little too much though.
Maybe it was 26 or around that.
I think anywhere under 30 for F1 is reasonable, but you have to have at least 22, I would think. So 22 to 30, 22 to 28 would be like ideal. So
yeah, it's just, and then when you have, because what is there? There's 21 now. 20 drivers now, and then you have like what, half of those drivers maybe are probably not even going to compete for wins or podiums.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger field I think would be better.
More drama.
Yeah.
More things to follow when Lewis Hamilton
races
is leading by 40 seconds. There's more things to follow when there's 30 cars on the track.
Yeah, I like Aston Martin. I mean, they make some tremendous road cars, but I like the fact that they've come in with Red Bull. Infinity, they've moved on to Renault,
which I always thought was weird that Infinity was. That's not a brand that you think of like, oh, that's fast.
But they do make some nice cars.
They do. Their SUVs are nice.
Yeah, but again, just in the standpoint of the way it looks, pretty much the same as usual. I want to point out, and I can't remember if they had these last year, but if you look at the rear wings, the slight bend in the rear wing.
Yeah, they had that last year as well.
They did? Okay. Because I know, in the 2012, 13, it was just a straight, much higher wing, and they lowered it the last two seasons,
they had that. I think the most interesting part of the Red Bull is, and I talked about this earlier, was how tight their side pods are. And, like the way that they compacted that engine, it was so sleek on the outside, and there's so much room on the floorboard. You can see there. Look how much room there is between the floor and the side pod. I don't know how they've done it, and I don't know if they're gonna have engine overheating issues, because they also have very, very small air ducts going towards the radiators. So
right.
I think it's pretty interesting to see how tight they've gotten everything. I mean, that's going to help them aerodynamically for sure. Yeah. But I think Red Bull's going to be. I mean, a lot of people are for the last few years they've been the third place team, but I can easily see them challenging for a number 2 spot. And I bet you they'll win 4 or 5 races this year.
They just had a horrible start to last year, and then
poor Max. I mean, and Daniel. I mean,
Daniel toward the end, and then Max pretty much throughout the first half of the season. But I think Ted Kravitz said something during testing that it was either with the side pods or the barge boards that one of the pieces fell off during some sort of run. I know Ricardo hit the gravel traps a couple times.
Yeah.
But the original side pod or barge board piece, they got rid of by the looks of it, or just went missing, or I don't know what they were trying to do with it. So I don't know if that's a modification that they can make or if they're allowed to make.
I think they have new suspension arms this year too. I could be completely wrong.
There's a little bit more detail, I think, when we were seeing a couple of the earlier cars too.
It's different from what the other teams are.
Yeah.
And you can see it almost looks like an airplane on top of the
right, yeah,
on top of the radiator ducts there. How that crazy wing that's coming out, and I know it's something interesting. I wonder what they're trying to do with that. Obviously, they're all directing air to certain parts of the car. I'm probably going towards the rear wing as well, but it's just a lot of creative from the Red Bull team and some stuff that we don't see out of other teams, which is nice to see as well.
Yeah, well, they're sort of more in terms of, if you look at them on social media or stuff like that, they're more outgoing.
Oh, for sure.
And of course with their drivers too.
It's a Red Bull brand though. Like Red Bull is like that in general.
Yeah, and it's really fresh to what it brings to the sport, and all the other teams are a little bit more kind of old school, closed up. Ferrari's trying to sort of put some personality into it. But he's on Instagram now.
Raikkonen's on Instagram?
You didn't know
that
this?
Is hilarious.
Oh, man, you've really been in the off-season.
Yeah, off-season mode.
Can you pull that up? Kimi Raikkonen's Instagram page. I know we're just killing you with these last name spellings, but, man.
I know how to spell that one, actually.
Oh, you do? Perfect.
Yeah, let's test that out. He spelled Kimi's name wrong.
He spelled it like a woman.
Yeah.
Wow, it was close.
There he goes. 2 down.
I didn't say I knew how to spell his last name. I said I knew
Oh, his first name? Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I thought this was a joke because he came out with the first ones. But, yeah. Yeah, click on that first one. Anytime you want, Roger.
Anytime you want. Oh, man, he's going to be... I'm going to have to give this a follow.
Scroll down. There's a couple of kind of really good ones. I think there was one where he posted like a picture of snow, and then he just wrote snow.
Okay, he's a character, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's so...
So, like, he'd post, like, videos of him on, like, his dirt rally track, I guess, at home or something like that.
Yeah, of course he has a rally track at home.
Just doing this. It's interesting.
How much is Ferrari cringing watching this?
That I was about to say is like, I don't know if he's allowed to do any of this.
He's at home, so
yeah.
Man, that is a motorsport god, Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah.
What he can do, how talented he is, and everything.
But it's interesting now that he's see if you can go on the very first video. His very first post was hilarious. Because you're gonna appreciate this.
Fine.
Hello everyone. This time I don't know what I'm doing. This is my Instagram, so let's see if you want to follow me.
Let's see if anyone can follow me.
So he like posted this, or I saw it somewhere like another profile posted it, and I thought it was fake or something like that, and then he got verified, and it's really him.
That's unbelievable. Well, that's gonna be a massive follow and probably something interesting to follow throughout the season.
That's why I think he's gonna retire at the end of this season. So
I
that's
am
why
a
he did the
wallpaper.
Instagram. Yeah,
Nice. Oh my god.
That one is the true wallpaper. Right?
That is actually
Yeah.
that might be my new
he's awesome.
laptop background.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
he's gonna need to have a bit of a bounce back year.
What? That's Ferrari's looking bad this year. It's going pretty slow.
It's those iPhone slow-mos. Yeah, everybody's a videographer nowadays.
I mean,
with
they
their
missed the
iPhone.
shot. They were doing a really bad job. Whoever was doing that.
That's not bad though.
Oh yeah, but they anyways.
It's a bit.
I'm not gonna
soft
get it to.
on focus. But yeah, so that's one of the big changes for this year. So it's
Not sure
it's funny
if in
to see.
Finland or Spain.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, I'd really like to see him kind of start to win races again. But yeah, I think Red Bull is going to be at the top, man. Three-way fight would be nice.
Oh, for sure.
Different guys winning races would definitely be good.
Now, time to talk fruit. We talked papayas earlier.
Okay.
And we're into bananas now.
Oh, with the Renault.
With
yes.
the Renault.
They did a good job.
They did a really good job. This car is beautiful this year.
Yeah, they mixed in well with the yellow, with the black, and the helmets from Hulkenberg and Sainz have really blended in well with the car.
This reminds me of just before they turned to Lotus originally.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, I think with the Lotus was a bit more like gold, right?
Lotus was gold before they turned into Lotus. But they were Renault before that.
Yeah, when Kubica was driving.
Yeah, when Kubica was driving, yeah. Beautiful car, and I mean they were strong last year too, a lot stronger than what people think they were. I think that this is going to be they might be the class of the mid pack. I think Force India and Renault I think is what's going to be the the big boys so far for that mid-pack race. And they have a great driver lineup. Nico Hülkenberg has been there for a while now.
Yeah.
You know, moved from Force India. I really enjoy Hülkenberg. I enjoy how he races. And then Carlos Sainz, who I'm not the greatest fan of. But this was the classic Lotus back in the day.
That's really nice.
Yeah. Well, I think with Hülkenberg too, it's just he's been in the sport for quite a while and hasn't gotten on the podium, and he's been unlucky.
Does he not have a podium yet?
No, yeah,
Poor
he does
guy.
not. So consider that Stroll got one in his first season ever, and Hülkenberg is still at that one. But hopefully that they can be competitive, because I think I don't know what the deal is with Sainz and Red Bull, and if he's going to go there next year if Ricardo leaves.
I don't think he does.
He's still under contract
unless Ricardo goes to Ferrari.
That's where I want him to go.
Yeah.
Vettel
and Ricardo could it'd just be Red Bull. But.
Yeah, I think we'll cover this a bit more, in the coming episodes. Yeah, but with what can happen. But he's also Italian too. I think he speaks Italian.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, his name's obviously Italian, but he lives in Australia. Whatever.
Well, he's Australian.
Yeah. Sorry.
He's very
Australian. Yeah. So I don't know if it was his parents immigrated there or whatever it was, but he does speak Italian, I believe. So I think that would be.
I mean, he lives in Monaco with.
Everybody
driver,
does, yeah.
So
yeah,
you think they would learn a little bit?
Yeah. So I
know
think
Monaco's in France, but anyways, whatever.
It's close. I think
they're right on the border.
You can go from Italy to Monaco.
It's right on the border.
Yeah.
I think there's a Swiss bank in there too. It's weird. Monaco's very weird.
I was there a couple summers ago for the race. Well, not the race, but qualifying. Yeah, it's a really, if you have the opportunity to go, I would go. It's almost like the place doesn't even exist. It's just so nice.
Yeah.
Everything is super clean. Just the architecture, the harbor that there is there. So yeah, I would definitely love to go again.
Oh, it'd be nice to see what Renault can do.
It's its own separate state, right?
I don't really know what the deal is, because we stayed in Nice, so we took a train from Nice to Monaco, but you don't show your passport or anything like that.
Well, it's the EU,
so you just
right?
go in.
Yeah.
But I think they're they're a principality, but I think they're a part of France.
I'm pretty sure they're part of France.
Something like that. But I honestly, I really don't know.
If you look it up, it actually says it's its own independent city-state.
Oh, okay.
City-state.
City-state, yeah.
So it's not a country, but it's a city-state. So
Yeah.
State, yeah.
But yeah, it's completely separate and
Well, sovereign, city-state, country, and microstate on the French Riviera in Western Europe.
yeah.
I don't know what half that means, but I mean, cool.
It's very small though. Yeah, you can pretty much walk around the whole state or country, whatever you want to call it, in a day.
Place.
Yeah.
What do we got next, other than Renault? I don't have anything more exciting to talk about Renault. Oh, Lance again.
Williams, we did. Yeah. So
This does look nice though.
yeah, the way they blended the white with the halo was good.
We talked about it, yeah. There's
that blue.
There's that blue, and this is where I wanted to talk about the side pods for the Red Bull as well. You can see how tight it is on the side.
They have
and how smooth it is. Usually you see that what is it, like an hourglass shape.
Yeah.
But this is just a straight kind of nice curve. And this was the livery that I was hoping they'd use.
You know what? Maybe they didn't even paint it. They just photoshopped it.
It honestly, it does kind of look like that.
Maybe that's what they did. Yeah, but I mean, I like the way that looks, but I think, yeah, just from a branding perspective,
yeah,
they went back to what their original is.
All right, what do we have next? As we're jumping around everywhere,
I think we
Haas
did
again. We did that
we
one.
almost did. Here we go.
Yes, this is my favorite livery on the calendar.
Yeah, I don't know why, but
I think it's so simple. And I think it's just very nice, clean.
It's so unlike Formula One. Simple.
I know, that's why I like it, because it's different.
Yeah,
but it's classic.
Yeah, I do like the way they put that big Alfa Romeo logo right on, the
engine,
the former shark fin. Yeah, the engine cover there, because that stands out nicely.
I wonder how they're gonna do this year. I mean, I know it's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, Marcus Ericsson, this is day one, so who knows?
Yeah,
but he was 3 seconds back. He was the only Sauber run on day one, but
yeah, well, you have Charles Leclerc, who's the new driver as well this year, so that's always. You never know how that could turn out, but yeah, I mean, it's a good step forward the last couple of years.
Is this gonna be a Ferrari feeder team, you think? Is this gonna be like the Toro Rosso of Ferrari?
Yeah, well, I mean, Ferrari traditionally doesn't really do something like that, but Leclerc, I think, was a Ferrari academy driver or test driver, something like that. So I think that's probably what they're starting to do because that's why Verline got kicked out, I think, because Verline was
He's
just,
Mercedes
Mercedes. So he was actually there in Barcelona. He was hanging out in hospitality, Mercedes hospitality.
Came
so
for the banter.
Yeah, I think for Ferrari it would probably be smart, but I mean they're always a big team that can attract big drivers, but eventually they're going to need to look at some younger talent for the future. I mean,
Raikkonen, who knows? Maybe this is his last year.
Yeah, he's
of course they could get Ricciardo, as we were talking about. But
yeah, I mean Ricciardo's still young. Raikkonen, like you said, he's old now. He's about 38, I think. Vettel's in his 30s already, so he's obviously got many more years to go. But
Vettel's around for at least another 10 years.
Yeah, but if you're looking toward the
change
future,
something stupid on the car.
Yeah, well, I mean they're threatening to pull out of Formula One if things kind of don't go their way.
They won't.
I don't think they will, just because I think. I was watching an interview with Alain Prost, who said that he can't imagine Formula One without Ferrari, and he said also Ferrari cannot survive without Formula One.
Yeah.
Which I would agree with him, because I really don't know. I mean, they do some GT stuff in the WEC, but they got the Ferrari Challenge, but I don't think that's big enough for.
It's not big enough at all
for them. So
they have Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, well,
if that's not an F1 spot, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But anyways, the Alpha, I think it'll be interesting to see how they do this year, and I don't know how they're gonna end up turning out, but we'll see.
Yeah. What else? I think that maybe our last one.
That may have been the last one.
I think we've covered all the teams. Yeah.
Oh, we didn't do Mercedes.
Oh, well, why do we need to?
There's no use. Their livery's boring. They're good again this year. And I hope they don't win.
They put a little more green, or
whatever that color is, turquoise,
into the car.
Petronas obviously still part of the.
Yeah, well, that's gonna be. They did like EQ power. That's their new thing. It's like called the Mercedes W09 plus EQ power.
What?
I have no idea what that is.
EQ was like music stuff.
Maybe no. I think it's like maybe what you call it, something like a fuel or I don't know. Probably just
they'll
butcher in this.
Really good again this year. They'll probably win the constructors again. I mean,
yeah,
I'm getting kind of tired of them.
Yeah, there it is. Mercedes-Benz EQ power. So
plug-in hybrid. Are we just gonna give Mercedes?
Well, this is not what I was expecting.
Not great.
E mode. So for everybody listening, we're watching a video of Mercedes EQ power for all electric and silent driving.
Makes your dog become quiet.
EQ power. Yeah.
What? So all they're doing is they have two engines.
So
they have an electric
hybrid.
Yeah. They have an okay. Well.
God, I hate hybrids. I would never drive a hybrid car. I've never actually driven one or been in a hybrid car, but I have seen the way they start up. It's just super weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like gas power stuff. But
yeah,
Mercedes again this year. I mean, and we'll talk in a second about with our predictions, but obviously Mercedes is the class of the field.
Yeah, and I mean Lewis put that scorching lap in testing with the medium tire, so I don't know, man. It's judging by that, it's not looking good for the rest of the field. But if we can actually have not two drivers going for the drivers' championship, that would be nice. So it remains to be seen.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So getting to the drivers' standings and in our predictions here. I mean, obviously
early predictions. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you'd be stupid not to have Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull as your top three. Where that places, that'll be interesting. I think Mercedes does win the constructors again. Yeah. Do I think they win the drivers' title? No, I don't think they win the drivers' title.
Yeah.
I think Vettel. I think what is going to happen this year with Ferrari is that they're going to focus so much on Vettel, and I feel so bad for Kimi.
Yeah.
But it's going to be something where Vettel and Hamilton battle it out, and Bottas, Ricciardo battle it out for third, maybe Verstappen in there as well. I think Kimi Räikkönen finishes sixth in driver standings.
Oh, jeez. I actually think that he's going to come out a little more focused and a little bit more determined, maybe to not just be a number two driver. Maybe it's because I'm not sure if he's going to decide on retirement, anytime soon. Maybe it's this year, maybe it's a couple of years. But I think he actually can be a little bit more competitive this year. There's just a little bit different about him, with the Instagram page when we talked about a couple minutes before. He looks a little bit more looser, trying to start to enjoy a couple things in Formula One. Maybe he didn't before. But
now, say Vettel somehow, say he crashes out the first 2-3 races.
Yeah.
And Raikkonen gets a podium. you have to obviously put all your chips into Raikkonen.
Yeah.
You have to say, Vettel, listen, last year Raikkonen did this for you. This year you're gonna have to do this for him.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know. Like things change every race in F1. That's kind of the beauty about it. At least mostly every race.
Well, I mean, when you looked at a race in particular last year in Hungary, where Raikkonen was much quicker than Vettel, but they let Vettel stay out in front, and Raikkonen couldn't get too close because they were overheating engines. It was, very hot day and everything. But, that could have been a situation where they could have let Raikkonen go by because he was the quicker driver. But Hamilton was coming up quick behind Raikkonen as well. So they used him a lot of times last year to sort of,
I hope Kimi can get one race win this year.
Yeah, and multiple ones. I think he's obviously got the skill to still do it. But, I mean, he was clearly playing the number 2 driver and sort of feeding Sebastian's, championship. But, I mean, when you have two world champions, on the same team, that's really tough to manage.
No, for sure. And Vettel's saying, listen, guys, like, I want to be the one that gets most of the focus on this team.
Yeah.
But for Kimi's sake, I mean, it'd be nice for him to have at least one race win. And if he does end up challenging for a title, for Ferrari to put their chips into him, because Vettel's going to be around for a little bit. And who knows if this Kimi's last year. Imagine ending Kimi's career on a driver's championship.
Nico Rosberg style.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no one expected him to retire. Well, he
expected him to win it.
That's true.
Yeah.
He also has a YouTube page that's actually
that's
very fire. It's very good.
Is it? Yeah. Well, that's his new. I mean, he's got to make money somehow, but he's still involved.
He doesn't need to make money.
Yeah,
he's got
I don't know.
So much money.
Yeah, but that was one that we really didn't see coming. So I think anything is possible, but I think Vettel is probably going to be coming out. The stuff that we saw last year from him, those kind of mental lapses in Baku and Singapore.
Well, it was childish.
Yeah, it was, and I think he probably learned from that. And I mean, they're both going for their 5th world title between Hamilton and Vettel. First time ever that we've had 2 4-time world champions on a grid. So, if it can be a lot closer between them two and sort of not like a runaway like it was at the end of 2017, that'd be nice. I don't really know who's gonna win it, just because you never really know with these things. If you look at the last couple years, Red Bull dominated for 4 years, and then there was a switch. Mercedes, they're entering, this would be their 5th year.
Yeah.
So, is that dominance going to run out, or are they just going to keep going with it? I mean, Ferrari in the early 2000s did it for quite a few years. So I just don't want to see Hamilton a second ahead of, everybody else. Like let's short. That's what everybody wants now.
Yeah.
Shorten up the distances, shorten up the times. Let's get a little bit closer, and let's see some other teams get on the podium. Some Force India, Renault, like you were saying. It would just be welcome.
Oh, for sure. I mean, throughout a season, like, you're gonna have surprises. You'll have crashes. You'll have drama. But you do want to see some sort of, for the fans of other teams and for the casual F1 fans that want to come in and watch the race. I mean, when Hamilton's up by like 20 seconds, you're
yeah. And it's hard to sell to people where it's like, oh man, like, they have exciting races all the time. If we're being honest, no, they don't. There's a lot of races. I mean, like Abu Dhabi last year, I didn't even bother watching it because people were just saying it was. I mean,
well, also there was no point.
There was nothing on the line, but there was just no good racing.
It was a testing session.
Yeah, exactly. There's no passing. There's nothing. So.
And that has a lot of problem to do with the way the aero's set up with these cars.
Well, they can't follow. Yeah.
And I think in the future, especially in 2021, I think you'll see that a lot of the aero will be focused to the bottom of the car, where it doesn't hurt the follow, but you can still follow close, but you can still get an aerodynamic advantage towards the floor and the bed of the car.
I say in 2021, let's go back to V10 engines, cut that halo off, no seatbelts. Let's go back to the olden days. But that's how they used to race. Like,
for sure.
Back in the Fangio days, there was no seatbelt. There was nothing. Guys would be smoking cigarettes during a pit stop while they're fueling up.
I'd be having a glass of wine.
It was wild. It was wild days, and now it's that's actually one of the. Sorry.
The old Lotus there with the jog players.
Yeah. Pull. I don't know if you can pull that up again, but those were the classic days when you had barely any functions on the steering wheels. Obviously still 3-pedal with the clutch. I don't know. Was it an H pattern?
H pattern, yeah.
Was it H pattern? Okay, so it wasn't like a manual sequential, but Yeah, I mean, look at that. Like, look at how massive those rear tires are in comparison to the
Oh,
front.
I mean, they're big this year, or like last year too.
Yeah.
The tires got bigger, which I loved. I think they're in the right
yeah, in
direction.
comparison with that, yeah.
But I think they're in the right direction with the car.
They are. I mean, the times are just going to tumble down. Like, I think Ricardo's time in the first day was 1.6 seconds faster than any time last year in testing. And that was
a 121.
Yeah, wet conditions.
120.1, I should say.
Yeah, so I mean, if that's what's going to happen, then I'm really looking forward to that. But there's a good argument for both, multiple errors. But I guess the last thing that we can talk about for today is the obvious one, probably the biggest topic of discussion during the off season. Oh yeah, the 15 different compounds that they have.
We're gonna keep up with that, and they're saying that this year they actually might Pirelli, instead of going like soft, medium, and hard, or super soft, soft, medium, they might go with something like hyper soft, ultra soft, mediums, and skip the soft, and skip a tire. And like, teams have already had to have a tire selection. I don't know what it is, but
yeah,
that'd be nice to see, because I know a lot of it last year was okay. It's a
so I think it was the Hypersoft they introduced,
and then the super hard.
But who's gonna use the super hard?
Well, that's what I mean. Unless it's a mandatory one that you have to use, which they might do
because
in Spain, let's say.
Like the super hard, that's what it was, right? The super hard, that could probably get you through maybe an entire race.
The
distance.
Pirelli Rainbow, that's what we want to see. And the hards are blue now, which are I know
which used to be wets, right?
Well, the wets are just a dark blue.
Yeah.
But that was Sergey. Who was that actually? I don't know. Anyways, it doesn't matter. So there's your rainbow, which I mean, we used to have 3 in soft and hard.
Yeah, but
the thing is that I think it'll be fine, because what they're trying to do is to have more excitement in the pit stops. I mean, last year they were all one-stop races, right?
Yeah.
They're not excitement. Where this year they're trying to make it at least 2 stops each race.
Yeah.
Which I'm completely okay with.
Yeah.
I'm completely fine with the way as long as they make the tires simple to follow for the fans.
Right.
And I understand what's going on with them, then I'm completely fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah, because that becomes the issue, right? Is you could probably one stop on, let's say, a super hard, but it's mandatory to do 2 compounds at least, which whatever Pirelli decides, if it's ultra soft and soft for that weekend or whatever it is. But yeah, when it came out, I was just looking at it saying, most teams or most tracks are probably just going to select either the super soft or the ultra.
Well, you have to think the compounds have gotten softer as well. So technically, the super hards are just the hards from last year.
Right, yeah.
And for the most part, and everything's moved up. So that means that the ultra softs are even softer than what they were last year.
Yeah.
And the hyper softs are even softer than that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe the hyper softs will last 2 laps. Who knows? But
that's something we'll pay attention to during the season, is how long the life of the tires can last. Obviously they're putting a lot more G load into them, and times are going to get quicker. So.
Well, that's what Pirelli was worried about last year, and that's why we saw, only one stops. They're being conservative. Now this year, they can be a little more aggressive with what tires they use, and I like a lot of people complain about Pirelli tires. I really love what they do with the sport.
Yeah, I think
yes, you can have Michelin and Pirelli. I'm sure can build a tire that can last the whole race. 100% they could.
Yeah.
1, it's not as fast. And 2, you won't see the drama on the pit stops.
Yeah.
And the strategy.
Yeah. The strategy is a huge part of it. Sometimes, a race can be ruined just from a pit stop strategy. We saw it in the first race last year with the undercut with Ferrari. But yeah, I think Pirelli's definitely been the number one in terms of tires the last 20 years or so.
Yep.
I liked when Michelin and Bridgestone, there was that competing.
What if you did like a Pirelli versus Michelin kind of? But the thing is that how would you do that? Would Pirelli have the soft tires and Michelin have the hard tires, and see maybe one team doesn't stop, but it gets complicated for a lot of fans to follow. I'm fine with the Pirelli. Everyone uses the same tires.
Yeah, I like it too. I would agree that just having one is. I mean, there's already so many things that you're not sure about and confused about and have to follow. To sort of just be somewhat simple on one part of the car, it's kind of nice to have. And
kind of takes a tire equation out of the matter too. You can't really say this car did better because of these tires.
Right.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. That's with like Tyler, what you were saying with the strategy. Like, you do better because you had this strategy, and some drivers like a Perez, for example, is really good at managing tires, and he can go long on a stint. Stroll, he just burns tires.
He's
after
not
every corner.
I don't know if that's a Williams thing though.
I don't know.
Again, they don't have a great chassis.
Yeah, because he had that a lot issue last year where he would flat spot a tire.
Don't flat spot me. That would be
early in the race, and then he'd have to pit and lose position. So, yeah, that'll be something to pay attention to. So what we can finish up on is that beautiful piece of artwork in the cockpit of that car. I mean, I love it. Well, obviously the halo.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of get our reaction.
Yeah, we're just sighing. You know, it's a very interesting debate. You know,
I'm already starting to
see
get
if you
used
can
to it.
pause on just that photo. That shows it pretty well there.
So I want to pull this up eventually, but it looks like a flip flop. It literally looks like a flip flop.
It does, yeah. Well, I mean, if you imagine it, like looking back on it, that's where you'd put your toes in the middle there.
100%. It's a flip flop.
Yeah.
And a basketball hoop off the T-cam.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, if you guys haven't been following it, it's a mandatory safety device that they've introduced for 2018. They tested a bunch of these the last couple years. They had the windscreen last year.
Yeah, but the Indy cars got the windscreen.
They got the windscreen
nailed down.
Yeah.
Nailed down. Why don't you take work together?
Like you said, IndyCar did use the windscreen. They used a similar technology to what fighter pilots were using for obviously their window or screen, whatever you want to call it. They only had a couple of questions and issues with in terms of distortion. So obviously at an oval at 230 miles per hour, Vettel complained about this last year that
he felt a little sick,
he felt a little dizzy and stuff like that. But I think they figured that out.
Well, I know they said this is just the first generation of driver head protection, which gives a little optimism. Okay, maybe they'll make something a little nicer next time. But I think we only see this for 2 years.
Honestly, I hope
maybe
so.
Even this year.
It begs the question of, is this the future? Because this was the debate of why they brought it in was driver safety. But I mean, let's look at it. Formula One, since whenever it started, since 1950s, has always been open wheel, open cockpit series.
Yeah,
and I mean that was in those days it was super dangerous to drive. I mean they'd have like 6 drivers die per year. But now you don't really have that issue. Since 1994, we've had 2 driver deaths.
Yeah, I mean you had Massa who had took the spring to the face, which.
Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because if we look at the halo, would that prevent?
I think it would.
That you think so? I don't think it would because if you look at that picture there, that first one, that wheel nut could still go through that gap.
Was it a wheel nut? I thought it was a spring.
Or a spring or whatever it was. Anything that's small enough.
I think it could have either go bar down, or hit the middle part and bounce away.
If it goes perfectly. But I just think if it's, for a tire or, a bigger piece of, carbon fiber.
Yeah.
Yes, it can still protect. But, there's still stuff that can go through that hole. If there's a big accident or something like that, there's still a rod or, a front wing, anything that can still go through that hole. So I don't think that the halo is like a foolproof protection system. I think they should have waited until they found something that works completely.
I think they should have waited till they found something not as ugly.
Well, yeah. And that's the other thing, too, is like people are like, oh, well,
like imagine getting a model car as a kid and having that.
And having that, yeah. Well,
like, what is this?
You're going to have that issue with the new, video game that's going to come out next season. Like, who the hell is going to want to drive with the Halo?
I wonder if there's an option to take it off.
Probably they should.
See, this is the windscreen that they had.
Yeah.
And that looks pretty nice. I mean, you can kind of see the glare off it. I mean, that was the first generation windscreen as well, but I mean, that would look a lot nicer.
I like that better than the Halo.
This is the basketball hoop I was telling you about.
Yeah, so if you look at it from the top. And one of the things that we were talking about, before the podcast was that some teams have done a good job of blending it in with their cars.
Yeah.
So, if it's a white car, they got the white Halo. So it doesn't look as bad as when they were testing it, a couple seasons.
Manor with a Halo? That's a very rare photo.
Yeah, I think this was 2015 maybe.
Well, look at that. Yeah. That is something cool.
So it does look a little different from what it used to, the early.
Not a ton different though.
Early developments. Maybe
I mean, it's a little more aerodynamic, I think. But
yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, with the flip flop. And they were saying like, well, this Halo can sustain, a double decker London bus. And I saw his tweet. Somebody online was like, I'm so glad because before double-decker buses in Formula One was a huge issue.
Yeah, it was
so it's like, I'm glad there's something there that can protect it from that.
I think that's just a bad representation of a F1.
That's a game.
Yeah.
No, it's a game.
Yeah, that's just some sort of a spec. But, I mean, the driver said that it doesn't impair vision. I don't really think, it does.
The only thing it would impair was if you're coming into your pit box, I think. Trying to, spot your jackman.
Yeah.
Trying not to run him over.
This one's hidden fairly.
See, on the Williams,
yeah. So the Williams, it works, and because they blended in, like you said, Toro Rosso also with the blue, so it works there. So some have done it better than others, but Yeah, man, I really hope that after a couple of years they just scrap it. But when you talk about driver safety, that's a really hard.
Oh, and that's the thing is that once they implement something for driver safety, they're
It's
not
tough to get rid of.
Yeah, they're not going to get rid of it. So I think we're going to be stuck with this for.
My argument on it is just that, if you don't feel safe enough to ride in an open wheel, open cockpit series, just go race in another series. I mean, obviously there's a massive danger in racing, but in today's Formula One, I don't think that the danger is that huge. You know what I mean? I think that when you crash the car, there's a really high chance that you're gonna, come out of it okay.
Anyways, but we'll see what that future holds.
Yeah, it's just just from a looking perspective, and if you don't feel safe enough to do it, just drive in another series. That's sort of the way I see it. But
don't hurt us, Mercedes, for using this.
Yeah, we just won't show it. But yeah, this is the new the visor cam that they started to do. So that's nice of them. But from an aesthetics perspective, I mean, it just doesn't look good at all.
No,
it's so foreign. It's just so weird.
I guess that's something that we can debate throughout the season and see how it goes during a race, right? It's something we won't know just yet.
And I'll be really interested to see if we have an accident as a result. I mean, I'm not hoping for it, obviously, but
I know they have a thing where if there's a fire or something, they have to get out in a certain amount of time. Like, how do getting
that's
out of
changed
that
now?
Is tough.
Yeah, because if you've seen the drivers getting into it, like it takes it some time. It's not like a minute or anything, but it's much longer than before. And
like jumping out of the car if it's an electrical issue.
Yeah, if it's a fire, I think it's like 8 seconds or something like that. You have to get your belts off, steering wheel off, back on, or something. I don't know, something like that. But it's an actual test that you have to pass in order to be able to drive. But yeah, I don't know. That's probably changed in terms of the regulation. But I really hope that there's not going to be any sort of issues in terms of crashes or safety because of this. But I think that whoever developed it and all the teams have sort of figured out those potentials and those instances.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it's just like the V6 engines where we hate it, but after a while we get used to it. We obviously hope for something better, something louder, but it's just something that, a price we have to pay, I guess.
And then we'll have to see how the season goes. I mean, this is it's going to be a very interesting season, I think.
Yeah, it's still a couple weeks away, so we'll have
one more episode coming up for testing.
Yeah, test
wrap
2.
Up testing.
Yeah, we're hoping for some good weather. We can maybe read into it a little more in terms of timing. We can also, preview driver lineups, see who are going to be the favorites, do a little bit more of an extensive preview, and then end of March, I'm not sure, maybe it's the 25th, I think, is the Australian Grand Prix.
Is it?
So yeah, we're still a couple weeks away though. So we got to be without F1 for a while, but yeah. Interesting times.
It's nice to be back, and nice to have our first ever episode here.
First ever episode. We're gonna wrap it up. I think pretty successful start for us. So we're gonna be back next week, looking at all those things. So we would like if you guys could subscribe to us. We're at the BackMarkers F1 Show on YouTube, TBMF1 Show on Facebook and Twitter. So if you guys are into that kind of stuff. And we'll be posting some content from today's episode later on for sure. Tyler McDonald, thanks you so much. It's good to have you here. Good to have the little gang back shaker back, throwing it back to our Algonquin days. So it's nice to get it going.
Keep an eye out for Mike Nellis, who'll be joining us in episodes down the road.
Yeah, we'll be having some guests on soon in the upcoming future. A couple of karting guys maybe from the Ottawa area as well. So stay tuned for that. All right, until next time, it's bye for now.